This is an amazing landscape right here, because it takes us from our original project conception that began in the laboratory in Cambridge and working with colleagues in Ethiopia, and realizing the connection between two individual items: malaria, mosquito population, and then the issue of what are they eating, what is the possible role of corn pollen. And even as we see this landscape, we take it from the lab, in which relationships are fairly simple. We try to make them as simple as possible to see the relationship. What we see here is a complex ecology, an ecology that includes farmers making their own individual decisions about growing which crops, the fact that the vegetation is making its own adjustments to the fact that this road behind us here changed the ecology. The road moved the water so that the water would not wash over the road surface, and began to drain this area. This area was completely swamp. The local term is chafe. Now the movement of the water under the road to get it out of the way of the road has left us a place where farmers are now beginning to grow new crops, especially corn, maize. And so we have a landscape which is now agriculturally filled in by monocrops. Just a couple of crops grown here. The incentive is economic. The farmers are responding to national economic incentives in terms of what the prices they're getting. And here behind me is a farmer whose house was not here 3 years ago. He put his house here because he realized he could benefit from growing maize on this new landscape. And what he's done for the first time ever here, I would say the first time ever on this area, is he's plowed using a tractor. We see very few, if any, tractors in the entire sweep of hundreds of kilometers, hundreds of miles. And he's hired a tractor to come and turn over this very black, hard soil. It is so hard clay that I can't even break a piece off, barely break a piece off. It's almost like modeling clay. And he realizes that this is an opportunity, so he's decided to plant something here by using a tractor. And so the transformation of the ecology is what fits into malaria mosquito habitat. So the range of things that go on here, farmers' choices, what the soil is like, what the weather is like, the advent of a road, makes this an incredibly complicated situation. They're adjusting to the farmers bit by bit. The plants themselves are adjusting. Many of these plants are invasive. They come from outside. Most of the trees here, this would have been no trees at all perhaps 40 years ago. What we have now are eucalyptus trees, a few remnant varieties we're learning about from our colleague Malaku here. And what we see is people going to and from market. We see the fields being prepared during the dry season, and all of a sudden we have the tractor releasing new kinds of clay materials that you can see here, if you can see the color of gray, entirely new because of the deep plowing capacity of a tractor. Though I have my doubts that this is going to work for this farmer's plan. So the landscape here is a complexity that tells us that anything like malaria is not a single factor. So yes, we have all of the evidence that maize and malaria are connected in terms of promoting that disease. At the same time, we see it's not a single factor. So I think just this landscape tells us so much about the ecological foundations of malaria as a disease, linked to economy, linked to farmers' decisions, linked to the quality of the soil, which crops are available, what prices of crops are, and all of this brings us to a point of saying, why do we have malaria in this place in this year, sometimes and not every year? How do we then plan for that? Which of these farmers use bed nets? Which of them don't use them? Which of the farmers have come to understand the relationship between which season they're in danger, which seasons they're not? And we've had the chance over 5 years to observe all of this. And it's fascinating to interact with the farmers, talk to them about what they're doing, what their strategies are. And then to see the landscape itself transform. 5 years ago, this landscape looked entirely different. It is a truly remarkable thing to have been able to, really a privilege to be able to observe and interact with them, talking about disease, talking about their strategies. So this landscape is the landscape of our project that takes us into a world of great complexity and fascination.